The Priestess's Heir and Wings, Chapter 3. Lady Ymir had requested them to gather herbs again, but fortunately it wasn't for anything specific, just the usual assortment she carried in her healing bag. Even without looking, Elise could easily locate any of the herbs Lady Ymir needed. Black-toe mushrooms, blurthorn roses, myrtle leaves, sleeping flower nectar, and so on. The list was endless. As always, Samson had sent Zuzu with them, and as always, he seemed to be causing trouble for Elise. The mischievous black dog began digging around her feet, getting her shoes all muddy. Though they were already dirty to begin with, now they were even more unrecognizable. Elise scolded the dog, but he paid no attention, continuing on his merry way toward Eden, who was a few meters away, filling her own sack of herbs. "That little rascal," Elise huffed, scraping the dirt off her shoes and noticing a giant worm crawling on the tip of one. With a scream of disgust, she kicked the worm into a nearby bush. Zuzu barked back at Elise, seemingly proud of his little intervention. After that incident, the dog didn't dare return to Elise but stayed close to Eden. Once Elise had calmed herself down, she returned to her task, meticulously picking out every medicinal plant she could find. The air was a bit stuffy that morning, but Elise didn't mind. She spotted a giant dewdrop in the center of a maple leaf and flicked it with delight, letting the cool water drip down her fingers. Lost in her thoughts, Elise spent hours in her own little world, imagining how wonderful it would be if she could sprout wings and soar through the clouds or swim in the depths of the ocean and behold its wonders. How she longed to be the one telling stories for a change. The forest was tranquil and serene, devoid of any games or breezes on this hot, stifling summer day. The only sound Elise could hear was Eden's soft voice, singing through the forest, echoing around the curves of the leaves and the hollows of the trees. Eden possessed the most captivating voice in all of Area, capable of leaving a lasting impression on anyone who had the privilege of hearing it. Elise listened intently as she packed her sack with wild rosatines, a silk-like plant known for its efficacy against sunburn. She took pride in her knowledge of the healing properties of the plants she gathered. Eden's voice began softly, gradually growing in strength and intensity as her song reached its peak. "I sing to the sky's high flyers, grant me wings, unveil the vast expanse where freedom sings. I call to the sea's deep breathers, grant me air, to explore the depths where secrets rare. Oh, fair is my name, my hue, my flowing hair, yet sorrow's touch in my heart lays bare, hidden in nectar's sweetness and rose's bloom, entwined in melodies like whispers in a room." Elise attempted to join in, her love for singing compelling her to try, but she faltered when her voice paled in comparison to Eden's melodic tones. Instead, she listened in awe, tears streaming down her cheeks as Eden's song resonated deeply within her. It was one of Eden's gifts, to sing from the heart, expressing the emotions of those close to her. Yet, at times, Elise wondered if it worked the other way around, if Eden's true essence was only revealed through her songs. For a while, Elise remained silent as she continued gathering herbs in the forest. Elise found herself lost in her own thoughts, marveling at how the world seemed to hush in reverence for Eden's voice, how even the playful creatures of the forest seemed to still and listen, how the sky— Elise gasped, her realization interrupting her reverie. "Eden, look at the sky!" Elise exclaimed, her voice edged with urgency. She hadn't noticed the ominous shadows of thundering clouds looming closer and closer. Despite the day's previous calm, the clouds unleashed a fierce wind, whipping against them, and soon rain poured down, saturating the very soil beneath their feet. "Hurry, Eden! We need to leave now!" Elise seized Eden's arms, pulling her firmly through the forest. Eden had always been fearful of thunderstorms, and who wouldn't be? They frightened her to the point where she'd seek refuge under her bed, hands clamped over her ears, waiting for the tempest to pass. Only Lady Ymir could coax her out from beneath her hiding place. Normally, storms could be seen brewing from the sea or looming over the dark mountainside, but this one seemed to materialize out of nowhere, catching everyone off guard. As the wind howled fiercely through the forest, branches snapped from their moorings, and darkness enveloped them, broken only by the occasional flash of lightning overhead. Zuzu, their faithful companion, led the way, barking to guide them through the tumult. But soon his barks were swallowed by the deafening roar of the storm, and they lost sight of him. Eden's hands clamped tightly over her ears, trembling with fear. They had to make it home, Elise resolved inwardly. With rain pelting down and wind buffeting them, Elise and Eden pushed their way out of the forest and into the flooded ruins beyond. Soil surged upward, carrying rocks and branches downstream. Beneath the canopy of towering trees, Elise felt as if boulders were raining down around them, while icy pellets mixed with the freezing rain. One particularly large stone struck Elise's back, causing her to stumble and bringing Eden down with her. The crumbling pillars thundered down, striking the earth like giant drums. The ruins offered no refuge. They were perilous, threatening to become their tomb. Despite the searing wind and freezing rain, Elise fought to keep her eyes open. Her head felt numb, but she refused to succumb to darkness. Once the tumult of falling debris subsided, she guided them around the scattered stones, her heart aching at the sight of the ruins reduced to rubble. As they neared the bridge, shouts from the townsfolk pierced the storm's roar. "Lady Eden!" the men's voices called out. "We must hurry. It seems the entire town is searching for us," gasped Eden. Elise clung tightly to her friend, praying for the storm's mercy, just this once. Zuzu's distant barks reached her ears, but she couldn't discern his whereabouts. Was he trapped, or had he found shelter? "Look," Elise pointed ahead. "There's the bridge. Let's go quickly." Through the tempest, she spotted Samson navigating the precarious bridge, buffeted by the fierce winds. "Lady Eden, Elise, hurry! The dam is close to bursting, and the bridge won't hold much longer," Samson shouted, extending his hand to them. "You go first," nudged Eden. Elise shook her head. "No, you go ahead, Eden." With a gentle push, she urged her friend toward Samson's outstretched hand. Slowly, he pulled Eden to safety on the swaying bridge. "I'll come back for you, Elise," he assured her. "It's okay. I'll follow behind," Elise replied, watching as Eden gripped the bridge's rope tightly, her soft voice drowned out by the storm's fury. Elise listened to Samson's encouraging words, urging Eden onward. The gap between them widened as Eden advanced. Though she had crossed this bridge many times, even during storms, her feet felt rooted to the ground. But the soil beneath her began to crumble, forcing her onto the bridge at last. It took about 37 steps to reach the other side, Elise reminded herself, each step feeling like an eternity. She gingerly placed her right foot on the second plank of wood, gripping tightly at each knot in the ropes that lashed the bridge together. 5, 6, 7. Zuzu's barking faded as the wind howled louder, obscuring her view of the figures ahead. 12, 13, 14. The distant cries of men urging Eden to safety reached her ears. Elise breathed a sigh of relief, knowing her friend had made it across. But another sigh escaped her as she realized she was still stranded atop the swaying bridge. 15, or was it 16? The dam has collapsed. The river is overflowing, a voice cried out from upstream. Elise's gaze snapped toward the river, where a monstrous wave surged toward her like a predatory beast ready to strike. "Elise, hurry!" Eden's desperate plea cut through the chaos, but Elise couldn't move. Her eyes fixated on a massive plank of wood trapped in the rushing torrent. A knot tightened in her stomach, her legs trembling, causing the bridge to shake beneath her. Her hands felt numb, unsure if they still clung to the ropes. She was too paralyzed by fear to notice Samson edging closer to the crumbling bridge, too terrified to hear Elise's own screams lost in the wind. As the bridge began to succumb to the raging waters, Elise blinked and turned to her frightened companions, their pale faces mirroring her own terror. Were they afraid? Had they lost hope? Elise glanced down at where the bridge should have been anchored to 2 metal bars, only to find nothing but empty space. With a deafening crash, Elise's body plummeted into the icy embrace of the river, sending shivers of shock through her as she was swallowed by the frigid waters. A faint scream echoed in her ears, accompanied by a piercing ringing that drowned out all other sound. She couldn't feel her hands or feet, only a searing pain radiating from her left side, gripping her ribs and chest. Gasping for air proved futile as the icy currents invaded her lungs with their biting chill, leaving her breathless and disoriented. She wished for a swift, painless end. In the mere blink of an eye, the river carried her far from the safety of the town, the harsh terrain beneath her speeding past like fleeting memories. Despite the numbing cold, she sensed the sharp rocks scraping against her body, each jolt of pain dulled by the icy embrace of the water. As her eyelids grew heavy, Elise found herself drawn toward a flickering light in the distance, its warm glow beckoning her toward an unknown fate. It seemed so inviting, so comforting. Beneath the dark waters, bubbles danced around her, relieving the pressure in her ears and easing the relentless throbbing in her head. A gentle melody drifted through the water, soothing her frayed nerves as she drifted into a fitful slumber. Darkness enveloping her like a comforting blanket. Even though she was deep beneath the surface, the melody reached her, its sound soft and peaceful. It soothed her in ways nothing else had, and she felt as though she could peacefully drift forever, lost in its calming rhythm. There's no need to cross the bridge anymore. If anyone hears its tune, whoever they may be, will be granted a wish. I wish.